Hey, thank you for tuning in to Unfuck Your Mind, our potentially controversial discussion. It's essential to approach it with an open mind. Daniel and I want to emphasize that our perspectives stem from our personal experiences and how we perceive all the topics that we go through our own lenses. We are not imposing our views on anyone. Rather, we are inviting you to listen in on our conversation as we share our stories, beliefs, and whatever else tends to come along. So, our aim is to offer support to those who may feel isolated, unclear, or who are simply looking for support in their own self growth. We do acknowledge the uniqueness of each individual's journey, and we extend our respect to all viewpoints, requesting the same in return. And so today, is loyalty keeping you stuck? When being loyal means self-sacrificing, and then what does that lead to? Suffering. Yow! It's so true. Like I can look back when I was younger, loyal as fuck, low key, held hostage. That's the truth though. Like if we're being honest, we were raised that when you put other people first, that's the magic to everything. Oh shit, is that bullshit? Putting other people first at certain times, yes, but only after you fill your cup. In being honest, I won't say who, but there is someone in my world that I love dearly that tends to do this to a fault. And the intentions on this person's behalf are always good. Always, always good, but unable to see how this person is draining themselves just by caring so much about other people and what they need and not leaving them high and dry. And so I thought, in honor of this person, hey, let's do a podcast episode on it. And I think that we're all guilty to this to a certain point. Um, I'm way better at it now than I used to be, but everything used to be about other people first before myself because I thought it was a shame to put myself first. I thought it was selfish. I just thought it made me a really bad human to take care of me before I took care of other people. So before we completely dive in, this is so interesting. The human brain actually feels rewarded for self-sacrifice, even when it's self-destructive. That is really dangerous. That is so dangerous. I'm trying to think of any specific examples. I don't have any right now, but so
Well, I will say
2006,
this. Oh,
go ahead.
sorry. I was going to say to that right there is that, how many times have you just given and given and given until I've seen this in my own life and I've seen it in the lives of others to where they just give and give and give. And then you start giving from well, as you would say, an empty cup. And so at that point, you start almost giving like pieces of yourself away. And then
Yeah.
from there, because, when there's nothing left in the tank, all you can give is the tank. And at that point, you know what I mean?
Here's my tank. It's empty, but here you can have it.
But I used to be one of those people really badly because,
Yeah.
again, I always thought that I was only as good as the last thing I did for somebody else, and that's where I would find my value and my worth is how much I could sacrifice of me for somebody else, and I started seeing the incredible fault in that because of the fact of always feeling like just never it never fulfilled anything and never there was never it's hard to fill up a tank when there's a hole in the bottom of it, right? I mean, so
Like I'm gonna
yeah,
grab a cup of coffee, but there's a hole in the bottom of the cup. Let's see
right,
how fast it fills up.
yeah, it never will, and you'll and and so in kind of that in that metaphor, you never feel fulfilled right, in life, because you're always giving more than you're taking in.
Yeah.
And it
But
just never.
that's what we were taught. We were taught to do that. And it's by no judgment. So I have no judgments on my mom or the other adults in my life that have taught that, because it's a generational thing. If that's what they thought we were supposed to do, and then they were just teaching us what they thought was right, you know, it's just
Well,
generational. It's really nobody's fault. The It comes into play where um recognizing and then making the changes and the shifts. That's where the key is,
yeah, that's
you know.
something I heard Jordan Peterson say this one time, and I thought this was so fascinating. And he said, if you're talking to someone and you're constantly trying to have, good conversation with them, and you're noticing that they're not listening, that they're not engaging, that they're not being attentive to what you say, he said, stop talking. Just stop talking. Don't don't give yourself in a space that's not going to um you know be attentive to it, because attention is the currency of honor, right? So if somebody's giving you their attention, that's because they're honoring what you're saying, they're honoring what you're doing, whatever the case may be. And if they're not, well, then they're not. So
Right.
don't waste your currency on somebody who's not going to honor that. And I don't mean that like the person themselves, whoever it is, because it may just be you're trying to talk to somebody who's either not ready to hear a conversation or just don't want to, or that's just not the kind of the conversation that they want to have. And that's okay. I mean, but that's how you gauge. That's how you gauge, back to the Jordan Peterson quote, just stop talking. He said that, then he said, you let them do what they do and you just pay attention, and then you'll see what they're up to. You'll see what they're about. And then from there, you make that kind of assessment of, okay, do I want to keep pouring into this, relationship or whatever it is of any kind, or is this just not the place for me? It's just not the place I want to expend my energy to, to a deaf audience, so to speak, and then just reassess from there. And I think that's a very important thing, because we have a tendency to think that, oh, if I give enough, somebody will listen. But
Or there's also this part. If I give enough, I'm proving my worth.
yeah,
No matter what I do, if I just keep giving, maybe all these people over here that I feel like don't approve of me will finally approve of me, which is not true. If you have to do all these things to get approval, there's a problem, unless there's a reason for it. If you made a lot of bad choices in your life and people are like, well, now you have to prove your worth, that's different. But if you're overall just living your life as a good human, and you screw up here and there, and you come back around, and you feel like, oh, these people over here don't like me, like what can I do to make them like me? Nothing. Because if you do things for them, the core of how they feel about you is still going to be present,
yeah.
you
Well, I
know.
would even say that not even necessarily to prove your worth as much as you're proving your intentions. Because if you've made a series of bad decisions, this cause people, as most bad decisions will, in some aspect, have some collateral damage to the people around you, especially those closest to you, right? So, and you're changing, then yes, you may have to improve your intentions. You may have to approve, to kind of prove, hey, look, I'm not that guy anymore. I'm not that girl anymore who's making those piss poor decisions, and it's gonna, cause everybody hurt, shame, or whatever. but one of the things that I think we often, especially in intimate relationships, especially in, and look, I'm as guilty of this as anybody on the planet. Let me just say this really quick, and that is the fact that most of my life I've had this super kind of Superman complex where I always felt like that if I could help a potential partner, a potential, you know, intimate relationship, right? If I could, you know, help improve their life, then that would somehow give me value in the relationship, and that would somehow prove my worth in the relationship. And the issue with that is if you have to find external worth in people, things, whatever it is, you're never, never, never going to have a healthy relationship. Not with that mindset. Now, you may, after you change that, but the only way to improve a relationship is to change that mindset. You cannot find your value and worth in somebody else. And if you're looking for that in somebody else and not intrinsic value, that internal value, if you're looking that for that somebody else, you're doing two things that is extremely non-productive. And one, you're trying to find something outside of you that can only be discovered inside of you. And two, you are putting absolutely undue pressure on that other person, and it's going to drain the relationship to nothing, to the point to where it's just completely toxic or just completely fails. And you have to move into that space of, and so, look, some people may not agree with this, but in my opinion, the healthiest relationship, because I hate this saying, people close to me know this, but people say, "Oh, I need you in my life." That is the worst thing, in my opinion, you can say to somebody. Not because you're dependent on them, not because you're not, I to me, it's more important to hear, I just 100% want you in my life. Because if you tell me that I need you or that you need me, then that tells me that I'm a crutch to you. That
Yeah.
tells me that I am somebody that has to who has to um, fulfill something in you by giving part of me, right? And I know this may be
But it goes good. Like if it flows naturally back and forth, that's a healthy thing.
right.
But when it's like dependent and sucked out and not reciprocated,
Well, and
that's when
that's
it's
yeah,
not healthy.
and that's where I distinguish between the two. Like, I need you versus I want you. Because if somebody is like, hey, I want you in my life, and I want you to, be there with me and do things with me and be, that to me just tells me that yeah, they're strong enough to do it on their own, but they're also humble enough to say, hey, I want this. I want you to be with me in this. Versus, oh, I just need you to do this for me. I need you to do this for me. I need you to, because I think that's applying undue pressure on the other person in the relationship as a whole. Because that tells me that you're not, that tells me you're not aligned with yourself. That there's a lot of misalignment inside of you. Try not to go too deep into that, but because I could dig into that
There's
forever.
like this whole topic alone can go so deep because
Yeah.
this can tie into your upbringing and did you receive enough validation and engagement with the people who raised you, like all of family, siblings. Sometimes siblings are assholes to siblings, and that puts doubt in, it, and it's all just a journey in life. But overall, if you don't figure out how to work through that and how have that self-sufficiency, there's a lot that can go bad within yourself if you're putting everyone else first. I mean, it can even out in public. There's there's kind gestures that feel good, but like giving up your space for someone else, you know, it feels good. But what if you're always doing it? What if you're always self-sacrificing, like in general things in life, outside of that, intimate relationship setting? There's just so many different areas this can go. Because as you were talking, I'm like, oh, and then there's this, and my mind is going all over. And I'm like, okay, which direction are we gonna go? Because this is big.
Well, now,
Um, Go ahead.
me and you, okay, doing the podcast, right? We very much, because on my, I'll do the editing and the posting to Buzzsprout, right? And then on your end, you'll make the social media posts and kind of push out the engagement to people and things like that. And so it's not that I couldn't do the posting and you couldn't do the editing. It's just the fact that we understand that we could do this on our own. Yes, 100%. We both know that. We could both just host our own podcast. But at the same time, we do understand the value in two people sharing responsibility. And again, even in the professional setting, this is intimate relationships or friendships, business partnerships, whatever it is. It's the same thing, and that is that we understand the value and not necessarily needing one another to do the other thing, but just being, hey, you take care of this and I can take care of this. And that way we can create something that's absolutely beautiful because I'm whole, you're whole. And, in a relationship setting, two halves do not make a whole.
No.
Two holes make another hole. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. It's the combining of two people who are aligned and okay with themselves, not perfection, but who are okay within themselves and self-sufficient and so forth. And doing that is very, I don't know, I think it's just so important and not talked about enough, especially in any type of relationship, really.
Yeah. I just want to share some of these statistics that I found because it's really alarming. So with this one, I'll read it. But a 2016 study using an MRI scan showed that the brain's rewarding system lights up like you just ate cake or you got a hug when people put other needs before their own, even if it leads to stress or burnout later. So your brain literally gives you a pat on the back for being a doormat. Now, what what I say is, can you imagine giving yourself love and attention the way you give to other people first? A lot of the sayings that we hear, it's like monotonous, right? Oh, fill your cup and then you'll have more to give. Well, the words are said, but there's no meaning tied to it. It's so just there. Oh, okay, so I'm supposed to fill my cup and then I'll have more to give. But what if you really tap into actually doing it and feeling it and embracing it and giving yourself credit? Like, hey, you know, I go to this event like every month, and every month for the last 6 months, I gave up my spot for someone else. What if, and I'm just really pulling this out of my ass, to be honest. What if this time I keep my seat and I don't give it up for anyone else? The chances are you might have some people either silently like, what the hell, or expecting it, or maybe you'll find those right people that'll say, finally, she's sitting in her spot. She doesn't have to give it up all the time. You can light up that reward system within yourself by giving back to yourself if you're willing to do so. You just have to like step in and into that place of realizing you are a human too. You are not less deserving than everyone else. You deserve just like everyone else. So when you're constantly putting yourself on the side, that's really detrimental. It's okay to take your spot back. It's okay to sacrifice here and there, but it's not okay to sacrifice all the time. And there's actually here, this is interesting. There's actually a psychological disorder nicknamed the white knight syndrome. Wonder if they have a female version of that. I don't know why. Where
Yeah,
people
females
need
can be knights too. There's some Game of Thrones.
that's
Brienne
actually
of
you're
Tarth.
right. Um, so the white knight syndrome is actually where people need to rescue others, even at the cost of ruining their own lives. It's like an addiction. It's yeah, it kind of ties back into that's how they find their worth and their value because they give and give and give. But they accidentally destroy themselves. And oh, here's a funny twist. Most white knights think that they are the healthy ones. Isn't that crazy? And it's true because I can look back and I can think to some of my patterns. I'm like, oh man, I thought I was doing something so good because like I gave and I gave and I gave and then not. And then one more thing, and then Daniel, I can tell you want to talk, so I'll let you have at her. But like what I was going back to before when I said, a lot of times that lack of self-worth comes from how we were raised. So psychologists link this unmet childhood needs for validation. Like, if you save me, maybe I'll finally feel worthy. So it's kind of like trauma disguised as a superhero complex, you
It
know?
is.
Yeah.
When there's two things, kind of different perspectives to this. Because going back to what you said about giving up the seat, right? So the one thing that there is no perfection here for starters.
Yeah.
Okay. Humility, humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's just thinking of yourself less. So so the idea that, because this was taught in a lot, I grew up in church, right? In the Christian church, and this was hammered in, right? You got to give shit off your back. You got to give your last dollar. You got to give, all this stuff right here. Okay. And a lot of scripture and Bible stuff like that taken extremely out of context. But anyway, um, and there's nothing wrong with giving. It's the intention behind the giving that you need to pay attention to.
Yes.
It's what is it? Why are you giving?
That's a
Are
very
you
good point.
giving because you want that credibility, because you want to have credit to um prove your worth, prove your value? Okay. If
I
you're
just
giving, yeah, go ahead.
want to jump in one as you're describing this. I invite the audience to think about really being real with themselves because a lot of your answers are going to be subconscious that you're not even aware of what your intentions actually are because you're just so used to doing.
Yep.
So continue. I just had to say that.
Well, I love that too, by the way, because if you sit with that, because here's the thing I'll say. Now, I'm not talking about like, if somebody's drowning, okay, jump in the water, save them. I'm saying. So, but what I'm saying is that if you feel that kind of need to give, hold back. Take a few minutes and just feel what you feel. If there is this overwhelming feeling of like, oh no, I'm going to miss an opportunity to take care of this person, that's probably at least a yellow flag that there may be some self-worth issues there that's driving the intention to give. Now, if you can hold back and just think, and it's just like, okay, I do want to give to them, but I don't have to. There's not like a extreme push to do that. but there is a desire to do that, then that's probably a healthy thing. Okay. And again, everybody's different. I get that. But yeah, pay attention to that. Now, on the flip side of that, when you're constantly giving to people and people are constantly taking from you, you need to understand something that you treat people how to treat you. I'm sorry, you teach people how to treat you.
I was going to
Okay.
call you out.
Yeah. All right. um, how many T words? But you do. You teach people how to treat you by your actions. And so there needs to be a time where you just say no, where you
And
just
be okay
say,
with it.
yeah, is this, I'm not going to give in this situation. I'm not going to give up my seat, so to speak. If you want a seat, go get your own. This is mine. I paid for it. Again, so to speak, metaphorically, however you want to take that. And I'm not going to give it up in this case because I've earned it. I deserve it. And I want to be here. If that is a struggle for you at pretty much any time, then that's again one of those caution flags that you've got some self-worth issues is probably driving this thing inside of you. But on the flip side, again, you're teaching people that they can take from you without having to give anything back.
That to me is the most important part. You
And
are teaching people that you will always be at their beck and call. You will always be there to give that thing to them that maybe or maybe not they even asked for, you
and
know.
here's the thing about that is when you give and give and give, and then you get to that point to where you break down and you have this like emotional breakdown because you have nothing left to give, and you will get to that point. I can promise you, I have many, many times over the years before I
I hear
corrected this
you.
thing. You do not have a right to attack the person that is taking from you when you're not, when you haven't taught them that there's any other way to treat you. Okay. Now, this is going to be a little bit maybe abrasive, and people may not want to hear this, but you cannot attack the person that takes from you when that is how you have taught them to treat you. If you have
And
taught them to take everything I give by giving everything you have, you need to understand something, that when you start setting those boundaries, they're going to have an issue with that. And rightfully
yes.
so. Rightfully so. You're going to have conflict with the people in your life that's used to just taking and never giving anything back. When you start setting boundaries, when you start kind of, saying, hey, I'm not giving this today, you're going to have to be okay with that conflict because you've built that. You've built that construct, if you will, that they're used to being inside of. Now, again, I'm not saying that it's okay for them to be like this, but you do have to understand that you have taught them that it's okay to take everything you're willing to give. And so with that, you do need to kind of have some grace in that.
I just want to add that this could get a little, I'm just going to be real. You can also, if you're giving, you can also tell by the people in your life and how they reach out to you or not, if they're healthy mindset people, if they're supportive in giving in healthy ways, or if they're energy vampires. Because if somebody's just taking, even if they're not asking, and they can see you being, your energy is draining and you're getting tired, that's not exactly, I don't want to say a healthy person, because sometimes I think it's just the people that are connected that maybe are not healthy, but that's not a healthy connection. But then if you go over here and this person says, hey, are you taking care of yourself? Maybe you need a break. Maybe you need to slow down. Maybe you need to, just like, I got this. You just go take some you time, whatever that means for you. That's a really healthy connection. So pay attention to how the people also talk to you in your life because you want to, and I'm not saying either side is good or bad because it is true. A lot of times there are people that when they connect, their energies just don't flow. Granted, there are assholes out there that'll just keep fucking taking from you, but I mean, definitely step back, quit, but pay attention. People and how they treat you and how they talk to you is going to be an answer to if you want them in your life or not.
And I totally agree with it. I completely agree that when you start setting healthy boundaries and when you start kind of putting you first at times, and those people that have the most conflict with you doing that, you're probably going to lose those people.
Yeah,
I'm just going
probably.
to be
Or have,
honest.
or there'll be attitudes, or there's going to be some kind of a rebellion, chances are.
There is, and there's probably going to have to be some of explanation on your end. Hey, look, I've done this in a very unhealthy way, and I'm giving out of an empty cup, and it's hurting me. It's hurting my mental health. It's hurting me as a person, and what I want in life. And so when you start setting that boundary, there's going to be that conflict. Now, yes, some look, people can change, and some people are not always. It's not that they're unhealthy in how much they take from you. It's just the fact they're not very self aware.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. Some people literally are not self aware and they're not going to fully pay attention.
Yeah, and they're just thinking that you're giving because hey, they just want to give, and okay, that's fine. I don't want to be disrespectful and not take from them or anything like that. And so some people are when you explain that to them, they're gonna be like, oh, okay, I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know that was an issue there. Sure. And those are the kind of people that you want to definitely probably at the very least consider keeping as a part of your circle, if you will. But those people who have a lot of issue with you starting to set boundaries, and if the first place they go is, well, what about me, so to speak, then those are probably people that you may need to consider cutting loose. Because again, now being self sacrificing all the time, I can guarantee you, I was going to say probably, but I'm not even going to say that. I guarantee you that you have drawn, at least in some part, a few of those energy vampires, a few of those people in your life that is not healthy, and all they want to do is take from you. Even when you start setting boundaries, they're going to keep pushing the boundary and keep trying to take from you. I guarantee that's going to happen. Guarantee that's going to happen. Because if you've been this way for several years like I was, you're going to draw those people. That's just the nature of it. I mean, it just really is. You're going to draw those people, and you're probably going to have to cut those people out of your life. And that you just need to think of it two ways. One, it's good for you, and then two, it's also good for them, because some of those people could actually flip that switch also and be like, oh man, I really have been just taking and taking and taking and not really giving much back. Maybe I need to change something in me, because sometimes, well, not sometimes, all the time, really, courage will inspire more courage in other people. When you kind of get bold and courageous to kind of step outside of that comfort zone and say, hey, I'm going to set a boundary. I'm not going to keep giving everything that I have anymore. It actually could inspire the people around you or some people around you to start doing the same, to start changing as well. So,
Yeah. Um, I it keeps coming to me. I feel really strongly that I need to cover this part. So, if you think about this, if you're giving and giving, what happens on the inside of you? You start feeling depleted, and maybe you're not sleeping enough, and you start going down this rabbit trail. Then all of a sudden, you have this unsettled emotion, and you're kind of like, I'm just kind of tired, I'm wore out, and I'm just not feeling like myself. And then all of a sudden, more time goes on. And all of a sudden, you develop anxiety. And you're like, oh my gosh, and anxiety kicks in. And then eventually it turns into panic mode. And then all of a sudden, your body is hurting, right? Your body's hurting. Why? Because now you have this anxiety and this panic and you're tense all the time. And your body's like, what about me? What about me? What about me? So if you are suffering from like the anxiety and the panic and in that distress, and all of a sudden you have a lot of body aches and pains, really check into that. Really be aware. It's your body screaming to you that it wants you to pay attention to it because your system has needs. And it is so essential for you to pay attention to your system. Um, so, some of the cons of setting yourself aside for everyone all the time is emotional exhaustion, which I was just talking about. And that can turn into like resentment because then all of a sudden you're angry, like maybe at the world. And the truth is, you have control to put up the boundaries, even if it's hard. And yeah, it can be a journey to figure it out. But then that resentment can eventually lead into this like loss of identity. I don't even know who I am because I'm just giving up everything about me all of the time. What do I actually like? And it might feel weird then. Like, have you ever had that, Daniel? Like, where I know I have, and I'm trying to think of a specific situation, but it's like you give and give and give, and then you have an opportunity that you actually tap into. Like, I have an option here. I have no idea what the hell I like. That's crazy. That's crazy. I think that used to be like I used to be so indecisive, and I think that's why.
And I think that's where a lot of yeah, indecisiveness comes from, is the fact that because you've given so much to what other people want, that you've neglected it so long that you don't even know what you want.
Yes.
Because it's like you've spent so much time, energy, and effort into kind of quote unquote building somebody else's dream, that you've lost sight of your own.
Even the simplest things. Like I remember, well, I still go to the chiropractor, not as much, but years ago, going to the chiropractor, I'd lay on the table. He would ask, would you like the heat lamp on today? And my brain would, I don't know. I don't know. Do I? I don't know if I do. And he's like, well, do you or not? Like, oh, sure. Or sometimes I wouldn't know. And then I'd just be like, no, I'm fine. And it's so ridiculous all the way down to the tiniest little decisions because you just don't know who you are. I mean, now when I go, it's like, well, do you want heat? Yeah, I want heat. I love heat. I didn't realize then that I loved heat. It scared me because what if you turn it on? And then what if he walks away? And then what if I don't like it?
Yeah.
Now I know if I like heat or not.
Well, and you said it right there. It's almost like you're waiting on somebody else to tell you what you
Yeah.
want, right? Because you get in that mode of like, oh, if I give an answer to what I actually want, it may not be what everybody else actually wants, or
Yeah.
it may cause some inconvenience to somebody else. And I can't do that because then I'm not, then I become a burden, and I'm not
Yes.
helpful, and I'm not giving, and therefore, I've hurt my value, and I've hurt them, and that hurts, who I think I should be. And there's this whole snowball effect, because I've done this, is the reason why I know this whole pattern, because I've gone down this path so many times of like, oh, if I say this, then this person might think this, about me, and I can't have that.
Yeah, for
Now,
sure.
at this point, it's like, this is what I want to do, and this is what I want to say. And if you don't like it, well, I mean, get far enough away where you can't hear me. That's all. That's best advice I can give you. You know what I mean? I mean,
I'm over
that's
here
the
like,
best.
well, it's the truth. And if you don't want to hear the truth, then don't
Yeah,
ask.
this is what I want to do, and so this is what I'm going to do. At this point, it doesn't hurt anybody else, and if it hurts your feelings, okay, well, then I guess you need to take you and your feelings and go elsewhere. But
Go go examine why it hurt your feelings because there's an
right,
opportunity for self-growth there.
and that's and I think that's one of those things that we have to. Loyalty is a funny thing. It really is, because some people, myself included, have done this mistake mistake that self-sacrifice for loyalty.
Right. It's
There,
not.
there's a difference between the two. Loyalty is staying true to, when in this case we'll say it this way, staying true to a relationship, whether it's business, friendship, intimate, whatever, without being disloyal to yourself. Okay, there has to be an alignment of loyalties to where you don't have to sacrifice all of you in order to be loyal to somebody else. Because if you're doing that, it's unhealthy. Stop. Just stop.
Like, it's unhealthy. Stop. When
Stop
you
it.
said it, like stop was so close to it's unhealthy that I
Yeah.
was like, wait, did he actually say stop?
But I mean, but really, that's really what that is that if you can't be loyal to you and to a relationship, you've got a disconnect, you've got a misalignment there, and it's either on your end or their or the relationship end. And I would pay attention to that, because again, you have to be loyal to your dreams, to what your intrinsic value, to what you want to do. Compromise is one thing. Compromise is meeting somebody where both parties are giving and both parties are taking. That's a different thing. But
Compromise can turn into self-sacrifice if you are not careful. I am a pro at this, trying to navigate what is a compromise. And then all of a sudden, somehow I have let, in certain situations, and all of a sudden it turns into self-sacrifice. So
yeah,
it's
and
really important to know that difference and to pay attention to how you're feeling and catch it before it gets too deep.
one understanding that that the other party should see you giving and taking as well as you see them giving and taking. And that's something that again you have to be very aware of. And again, like I use this because Jamie, me and you do this. You know, we both, because even like when I was on the road, you would kind of sacrifice a Sunday
Mhm.
because that's something I couldn't really change that in the sense, but also, I was sacrificing the time on my end with my family, but also, we came together to do that. And then even um, with the editing, and it's like I was saying earlier, I was like, hey, look out, I'll cover this end, you cover that end. And again, we're both giving and taking in the aspect of doing this. And so this is something that, because even like with the podcast guests, we both are doing, are reaching out to different people in our worlds, and we're both like hey, I've got this one, when you want to do that one, and we communicate back and forth a lot with each other, just because the fact that we understand that it can't be one-sided, because it
Yeah.
doesn't work. Because it gets unhealthy, and then you get people who that like bitterness and resentment and all those things start getting into the relationship, and the next thing you're at each other's throat, and just shit's flying everywhere, and nobody wants to so yeah, it's just seeing both parties with that loyalty, seeing both parties giving and taking is extremely important.
It is. I don't know. I kind of spewed a lot of stuff out really quick. I'm not sure what else I have right now.
Yeah,
Like,
me
and
neither. I
before
feel pretty
when we
good.
started, yeah, when we started, like it was going all these rabbit trails. There was like they were everywhere. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we could go here and we could go there. And like, yeah, do we really want to go that deep? It's like deep is fun, deep is good, but I don't know.
I think we've already
I'm
went
feeling
pretty
pretty
deep.
good about this. We
Yeah,
did, but my mind was going even deeper.
right.
So, um,
Well, and don't
so
yeah. Good.
some of the pros are strengthened relationships, but that's with compromise. Don't do self-sacrifice. I think in a healthy relationship where no matter what it is, if the other person is trustworthy and like if you are overdoing it, they're going to call you out on your bullshit. Like call you out on your bullshit. This is Jamie talk. So I mean like, hey, you need to slow down. You need to rest. You need to take care of yourself. Then it's okay. You just need to know that you can trust the other person. Um, because the truth is, when we help other people, it really does give us a sense of self purpose. And I think I'm going to take it this direction real quick because I know when I help other people, a lot of times when I help, I go with the intention of this feels really good because I know I'm giving this like gift to someone else. And I know what it's like when I've maybe needed this thing or this type of support and I didn't have it. So with me, there's always a lot of meaning that goes behind it out of care and concern or whatever. So really, that I think that's okay as long as you're not overdoing it again. Just be aware. And you know, I don't know. There's something on here about
Do have another point I want to make.
social what?
I do want to have one more point. I do have
I
another
just had
point I
to
want to
say
make.
this one.
Yeah,
Don't
go ahead.
forget your
Go ahead.
point. I just had to say social approval. So when I was looking things up, this to me, this is in the pros section of my notes. And I really hardcore disagree. So I'm just putting that out there. Social approval. Acts of selflessness are often praised and can enhance one's reputation, as long as it's not at the expense of your health and well being. A lot of volunteer workers, I think, get caught up in this and they have to because if they don't, who will? And I understand that people like volunteers are precious and we need them, but how good are you if your ass is whooped and you're not taking care of yourself and you're maybe a cranky volunteer because now you don't want to do this and now you feel like you have to because you're telling yourself you have to, and oh my gosh, and we could just keep going on this trail for a long time. Don't do that to yourself.
Yep.
Don't do that to yourself. It is okay to volunteer or, do whatever, but when you need a break, you take a break. After all, it's volunteer. So, what were you going to say?
I'm going to say sometimes I think the self-sacrificing thing can also be tied to avoidance.
Yes, that's a good point. You are
That
correct.
you give so much to avoid dealing with your own stuff. That
Yes, I'm
that
glad
that
you
you
brought this up.
because you said that it's because giving, you said this in the beginning here. Giving is basically like I won't say, well, I'll say it this way. Self-sacrificing is basically like a fake dopamine hit. It's a very good feeling in the moment and it gives you this sense of accomplishment so that you don't have to deal with your own stuff. This is one of the things that I've learned is phones, right? Okay. If you have certain tasks to do, things like, me and you both, Jamie, we both do hypnosis and building that as a business. And there's certain things that if you have a task to do, don't scroll on this mindlessly. Now, look, I'm not saying don't scroll ever because entertainment purposes is one thing. But if you have tasks to do, don't get on this first because
Right.
this gives you a false sense of accomplishment. Don't even read a book first. Don't gain knowledge first. Do something first. Do the task at hand. Be creative first because that's going to give you a genuine dopamine hit, if you will, without getting too deep into that. But that's going to give you that feel good chemical that's going to release inside of you of a sense of accomplishment. This will not give you that. Even reading will not give you that. Okay. Now, look, don't hear me wrong. I'm a big advocate for reading. I love reading. I think it's a wonderful thing to do. And I love learning stuff. Absolutely love learning stuff. But again, that is not taking action. It's kind of like a fake dopamine hit, right? Self sacrificing is the same way. When you self sacrifice, it can be a way of avoiding doing something like working on your own life and dealing with something that you don't want to deal with. And I
Uh-huh.
know this is going to be a little bit provoking, maybe, but just sit and think, sit with yourself for a minute. Again, I go back to something before you give. If you have a propensity towards being very highly self sacrificing, before you do that, take a moment and sit with it. Say, can I hold this back? If you can't hold that back, that's a good, that's in the hypnosis world, that's a good key point indicator that there is something else unhealthy that's driving that obsession to want to give and be self sacrificing. And it very well may be avoidance of things you should and need to deal with in your life.
And I think we have a lot of that nowadays because we're so overstimulated that we definitely don't take enough time to focus on ourselves. So
Yep.
everywhere we turn, everything we do is a complete distraction of being in tune with the self. But going back to the book thing, I'm going to contradict you a little bit. I'm going to say it depends on what you're doing with the book because I know there's often times I want to create something valuable. And so I will go to a book to take notes out of it or listen to
Well,
like a video on YouTube and just gather some notes and thoughts and ideas. And so there's if you have a purpose driven, you know, for the book, go freaking do it. But I do agree with you on
yeah, we're
that
definitely
whole
saying
thing.
the same thing because like I'm not talking about like research. It's a good point. I'm not talking about like, reading for research to create something you're doing because I will do that. I'm talking about just diving into a book to avoid creating
Okay.
the thing that you, that's what I was talking about. Yeah. But yeah, it's a good distinction. It's a good distinction.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh. So much good stuff today.
I know.
I love it. It's got me thinking. Like a lot of times when we do these podcasts, it gives an opportunity, I know for me specifically, to be like, okay, like, yeah, we talked about that. And I feel like I'm aware. Could I be more aware?
We challenge each other.
We do. Actually, we do. It's a pretty cool thing. It
And
is.
yeah, I'm super excited about next week, by the way. We have an awesome guest, especially
We
from
do,
your world.
Miss Lori Hammond, who love to pieces. We will have her on next week. I'm really excited. I have learned so much from this beautiful soul, and she has such a powerful story that actually, um, a lot of her things align with like our podcasts and things that we talk about, and things like that. Um, she's just a really strong woman. She's so strong. I don't know. She just, yeah, she has a special place in my heart. So I'm excited for her to come on and, it'll be good. I'm not exactly sure what we're going to talk about, but at one point in time, she was homeless. So, before she was a hypnotherapist. And I think it would be really cool for people to hear how she kind of took charge of her life and she's a successful hypnotherapist and she's making great things happen and she's had a lot of challenges in her life. So
I'm excited for that. I'm
excited for
excited
that.
to hear her story and hear it firsthand and yeah, get to talk with her. It's gonna be amazing. Excited.
Yes. Awesome. I think I think that's everything.
Yep,
I think we're
I
good
believe
for
it
this
is.
episode. Awesome. All right. For me, as for we'll call it the growth zone. That's what I call it in my email. Here's your growth zone opportunity where you can tap into Daniel and Jamie and get some good stuff to help you feel good. So upcoming, it would be I don't have my date down. Starting Tuesday, May 6th, I am starting a new series of stress management, like clear and calm, like to reset your mind. And it's a series of 4 guided meditation workshops where we will be going through the different kinds of stresses. We will be discussing different breathing types. We will be doing some spring cleaning of the mind. This is really meant to almost like it's springtime, right? Here where we are at in the United States. And what do we do in springtime? We clean all the shit out of our house and we feel rejuvenated and we feel good. So that's kind of what this is for your internal soul, is to kind of clear out that old stagnant winter clutter that's been hanging out inside of you, all the like lack of vitamin D and there's just the ugh feelings so that you can flourish and grow and have an amazing summer. So that will be coming up then. I will have the link for my people that are in the Mayville area. You can join me in person at the Tag Center. And if you are interested in the virtual option, you are welcome to do that as well. I will put the link in there. And yeah, I think that's what I got. And Daniel has his cool thing. Are you still doing
Yep, yep. I mean, I didn't do it
the
this Sunday,
free?
but yeah, but yeah, because it was Easter Sunday here in the States, and um, but yeah, starting next week, we'll be kicking it back off again, April 27th. So it is my Kickstart Your Weight Loss Journey. It is a workshop where I'll cover the 3 core foundations of weight loss and getting actually healthy and fit, and then go into the live hypnosis to where we'll hit the portion control, which will absolutely help you drop weight because the less you eat, the less you weigh. And that's yeah, it's a kickstart your weight loss journey. So if you want to sign up, the link will be in the we call it the description. I guess you call it the description, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
podcast
it's in the
description. I can't. I
description.
am. I'm always confused with that. But
That's because
um,
I take care of that part, so you
yeah,
never have
she
to
does.
worry about it.
And then also I do have, I just got my hypnosis audio store up and running, and there's 5 audios in there right now. They're specifically about weight loss and things like emotional eating, dealing with um, um, certain cravings for certain foods, slowing down your eating, which is called mindful eating. There's a few of those hypnosis recordings in there. They're relatively inexpensive, so you can go purchase some of those. And
Do
I
you
will be
do you
adding
do
more.
anything with intuitive eating?
Well, yes, mindful eating. That within that mindful eating, there is an intuitive part that I pull out of that as well inside that
Okay.
actual audio. Yeah. So yeah, very much so. Um,
Okay.
and because at this point in my journey, that's a lot of what I do. I've learned how to. Yeah, I have counted calories and protein and things like that, but I've also learned how to pay attention to my body and listen, and also, you know, and now I'm very clean eater, and yeah, I love the way it makes me feel, and the, it, there's so many mental health issues to your health
Yeah.
and fitness journey that people don't even. There's so many studies out
I
there.
I
Yeah.
will add this, not even joking. So yesterday was Easter and my mom made scalloped potatoes that I could eat. There's no meat in them. They're it was gluten free. Like I could eat them, and I haven't had them in so long. I way overate. I way overate. And I woke up this morning and my body's not used to eating all those different kinds of things, right? Felt so heavy. I felt not physically heavy. Well, I did, but emotionally heavy. I felt so emotionally heavy. And I was like, oh my God, I'm just not used to this. So I went to the kitchen, made myself a green drink loaded with spinach, kale, like celery, cucumbers. Put a little bit of protein powder in there, some hemp seed in there, and a little bit of almond milk and water. Blended that up, drank that for breakfast, and I could literally feel my body come alive. So when Daniel talks about this, I am here to tell you it is freaking real. What you put into your body can depress you or make you feel like you've come back to life.
Well, and that's because yeah,
So,
yeah, your body, yeah. There's so much stuff that you get
yeah.
from food that affects your mental health, and even working out and cardio, all these things combined. There's a ton of research out that talks about how even lifting weights, doing some type of strength training, actually very much helps with depression, anxiety, panic attacks, all that stuff. Like it
Yeah.
is there are so many health benefits to being healthy. um,
Yeah. There
and
is.
not in the physical and the mental, they're very much intertwined. There's no one or the other. It's you're a psycho-cybernetic system. So yeah. Anyway, I could nerd out right now, but I won't because we've talked
I think
enough.
you already did.
But yeah, that's one of the things that we'll definitely hit. And if you're tired of struggling with that inconsistency, because nothing changes until your mind changes, sign up for the free event. You'll learn a bunch of stuff. We'll implement what you learned in the hypnosis session, make it almost like a new automatic behavior. You'll get a free recording after that to absolutely listen to once a day. And you'll actually implement more of those changes. It'll kind of rewire your brain and the way you think, the frequency of your brain to, to actually change your eating habits, and you'll change your life.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you guys for listening.